flu came from there, not the bird flu, the West Nile, but they say it's an accident, but they're going to move it from that island in the Atlantic Ocean to San Antonio, Texas. What is this 36 level 4 bioweapons labs in the middle of populated areas in level 2 security? What's that about? Plausible deniability when they release it?
Well, when something happens, they'll say, oh, shucks, we just made another mistake. Nobody's responsible.
Just like Porton Down keeps releasing all this stuff on accident in England.
And certainly, and of course, at Fort Detrick in Maryland, of course, where they work on all these biological warfare agents.
And that's where the anthrax came from. They just love us so much. That's good people.
Oh, Chris, the story about the anthrax, the anthrax attack on America, isn't it interesting that it was only Democratic senators that received the anthrax-laden envelopes? And isn't it interesting that on the very day of the 9/11 attack, Dick Cheney, the White House staff, and the president started on Cipro, and the only reason you would take that is if you were expecting an anthrax attack. Why would they start on the evening of September 11th?
And it was the New York head of emergency management, who's a controlled demolition expert, and tied into controlled demolition, and the rest of them, who recommended they go on it.
Right.
A nice man.
The only reason you would take Cipro, because it's a potentially dangerous antibiotic, is if you knew an anthrax attack was coming. And if they knew an anthrax attack was coming, why didn't they warn the rest of it?
And some idiots say, well, why would they go on it? It means they had a tip. I mean, if they knew right where it was going, why would they go? If they knew it was going to the Capitol, why would they do it in the White House? Because they knew it was going through the main Washington mail office where the 2 workers died. Right. They knew they had to, even though they were launching the attack. Dr. Monteith, get into suppressed cancer cures, how the Rockefellers have the corner of the market, the documents and eyewitnesses you have to that.
Well, basically, they have been actively suppressing cancer treatment. This is covered in a 4-tape set we have called The New Order of the Barbarians, where Dr. Richard Day told a group of doctors in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1969 that there were treatments for cancer that were being suppressed. And, of course, there actually was a report. It was called the Fitzgerald Report. It was actually put in the Congressional Record back in 1955 about all the suppressed cancer treatments. And it was interesting, recently somebody sent me $50 and said, give me a copy of the Fitzgerald Report. I can't get it anyplace. It was in the Congressional Record. Well, I called everybody I knew, the National Health Association, the various researchers. Everybody had heard of the Fitzgerald Report. You could read about it on the Internet, but nobody had a report. Eventually, we were able to track it down from the Congressional Records, and it's in one of our newsletters. But basically, and people can go to radioliberty.com and just scroll down on the newsletters for the Fitzgerald Report. But in 1955, they were talking about Laetrile as an effective treatment for cancer. They were talking about the Hoxsey treatment. They were talking about several other treatments were available.
Isn't Laetrile the stuff out of cherries?
No, it is out of apricot pits.
Yeah.
But it's basically a specific vitamin. Actually, I talked to a man named Dean Burke, and Dean Burke was in charge of chemotherapy research at the National Cancer Institute, which is a subdivision of the NIH. And, of course, I talked to Burke before he died. He told me that Laetrile did work. They knew it worked. And that certainly it wouldn't cure everybody. Sometimes people were too far gone, but he said it's far better than anything in chemotherapy. He said, I've been in chemotherapy research for 25 years. I have 3 filing cabinets full of information on Laetrile. And I said, but what about the Smith, I forgot what it was, a Sloan Kettering evaluation of Laetrile where they said it didn't work? He said they actually fudged that. They knew it worked, and so they designed it.
This is why I say cherry pits. I know it came out of apricots, too, but I had a cancer doctor a few months ago I was talking to telling me that they found I don't know all the biology or all the chemical reactions, but explain to me what Laetrile is. But basically, it's a safe cyanide base that is covered with some type of molecular structure in the plant so that the body passes it, but that it still terminates cancer cells. Somehow they absorb it, but the rest of the tissues don't. He said it was out of cherry pits and apricots. You're saying it's just out of apricots?
Oh no, I'm sure it probably is, and maybe in several things. But characteristic. It comes out of apricot pits, but you're not going to get. I mean, don't go out and buy a lot of apricot pits and start eating them.
No, it's very poisonous.
It has to be especially prepared. You can get it in Mexico. You can get it in Germany. You can't get it in Mexico, in America, because they've targeted the American people. And any doctor who advocates this or uses this in America, they will come after and destroy. They are actively suppressing treatments. Now, there are lots of even better treatments. That was 50 years ago, but they're all being suppressed. Dr. Brzezinski down in Texas, in Houston, Texas, has a treatment that they know will, of course, take care of brain cancers and in children, and they will not allow it to be widely used. In fact, they tried to put Brzezinski in prison. Why? Because he was saving the lives of children.
Yeah.
We actually have a 4-tape set on Brzezinski's material with interviews with Brzezinski, and the book, The Brzezinski Breakthrough, was out of print. But people have to understand effective cancer treatments will be suppressed because people are going to have to die of something, and they want them.
And I want you to know this. People who serve the government, we've seen a change in the elite. We're about to go to calls. I mean, they were evil 20 years ago, but they wouldn't let the troops be around DU. Now they are. And the troops are coming back and dying en masse. They particularly shoot up the troops with this stuff. There are thousands of examples of them nerve gassing our own troops. That came out in the news again last week, mainstream news. I mean, murdering them, radiating small children to death. I mean, there's thousands of cases, and they did that to create the cadres of doctors in government who would carry out other ops. And I'm going to have you back, Dr. Monteith, for a full 2 hours in the near future. Let's take some phone calls. They'll be all over the map. But let's go ahead, and so we can get to some of these. Go ahead and take a call from Lynn in Chicago. You're on the air. Go ahead, Lynn. Are you there?
No, Lynn's gone.
Okay.
Next up is Chris, Minnesota.
We're going to go to Chris in Minnesota. Go ahead, Chris in Minnesota.
Yes, good afternoon, Alex. I'm sure that you're aware of, and I'm sure that your guest, the doctor there, is aware of. The Mayo Clinic in Minnesota here is one of the largest and most cutting-edge medical facilities in the United States. Kings and queens come here for treatment. And a friend of mine works for a company who subcontracts to the Mayo Clinic for making deliveries. And he had to take a delivery the other day to this secluded place just on the outskirts of town. And he told me that it was covered with armed guard security. And the rumor, I guess, is that it's a pig farm, that they harvest organs in the pigs. They're growing organs for organ transplants for human pigs and hogs.
Well, sir, there's no rumor. In utero, in pigs and cows, they grow humanoids. You can't really call them that. It's ganglia. From the doctors we've talked to, there's different processes. A lot of times it's just a lot of times it is humanoids, and they harvest the organs out of them in utero, babies basically, and that's actually in the news. Or sometimes it's just groups of organs within the pigs and cows. Dr. Monteith, would you like to speak to that?
Well, certainly we know that they're injecting human genes into the brains of mice, so that they will actually have human brains. The things that they're doing today are just totally in violation of God's plan for humanity. We have a book called The Aramont Gate, which is a fictionalized story of how they actually are cloning a human animal clone. They're actually doing this.
But those
today.
hybrids, if you Google human-animal hybrid, it's pigs, it's goats, it's horses, It's pigs. They're growing, quote, human embryos in cows. I mean, that was 10 years ago.
Sure. What we're doing, of course, is we're violating all the laws of nature, and of course, we're going to be creating new Frankenstein type.
But on top of that, the general public isn't going to get access to this, and they also harvest our baby's blood. Then, if they need it, they'll kidnap your kid for their organs. We know that's going on. That's why they want the blood samples at birth. The idiot doctors locally are compartmentalized and don't know. Did your friend say anything else about this facility?
He dropped off.
Okay, let's go to Warren in Michigan. Warren in Michigan, you're on the air. Then Jack, Elliot, Ollie, and Mark. Go ahead, Warren. You're on the air with Dr. Monteith.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for taking my call. I'm sorry I'm not more prepared for your guest. I listen to the podcast. I'm a day behind, so it's very interesting stuff.
Go ahead and make your point.
Make the comment that I lost an aunt of mine to ovarian cancer. It's just amazing to me, being woken up very recently that she was battling the cancer and then was obviously more heavily battling the treatment, and that's